What up, my channel? Welcome back to another video. I'm Jessie and you're watching. Hi, hello, welcome friends. Today I am going to be delivering to you the Contradictions book tag. This book tag was created by a booktuber named Danielle from Only If for a Page. It has 9 questions. It is so creative and I am very, very excited to be answering these questions. I do have a glass of crisp white wine with me because I'm about to spill some tea. That's the thing about readers, is that we are full of contradictions. What we like, what we don't like, tropes we like under certain circumstances, certain situations, but not in others. And we're like that as human beings. We contain multitudes, right? And so I think this tag is so brilliant because it allows us to talk about the various ways that we differ, and that is always a very exciting thing. So the first question is going to be, I love this genre, but I didn't like this book. I know y'all are going to cancel me for this, but the book that I have selected for this question is none other than My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. My Lovely Wife is a beloved thriller. It is all over booktube, less so as of the last year, but everybody loves this book and it just wasn't it for me. I love thrillers. I have the most thrillers on my shelves out of any other genre. I am a huge fan of thrillers, but this book was just not it. So My Lovely Wife is about a couple, and the wife is a serial killer and the husband is essentially like dragged into this scheme of serial murdering because he wants to impress his wife. He wants to keep their marriage spicy. You know what I'm saying? If your marriage is dying, you need to spice up your sex life. Commit some murders. And that's essentially the premise of this book, which off rip, synopsis alone, that sounds so freaking cool. One of my favorite tropes is murdering women. I love it. I simply love to see it. I want to see women killing all kinds of people. That sounds great in literature, not like in real life, because we don't want to promote that. And this book just wasn't it. There was nothing compelling and delicious about the wife. She was just unhinged. And I need a little bit more from my characters. As far as the husband, he was just so in love and doting and like blinded by his love for his wife that he himself didn't have a character. His kids, his son was getting on my very last nerve. He was taking my nerve and jumping on it like he was just on a trampoline. I just couldn't stand him. There was nothing in this book that compelled me. The murders that they were carrying out were, my dog could have come up with more intelligent murders and murder plans than what these two people were coming up with. And I felt like the ending of the book was so obvious and it just didn't do a thing for me. I don't understand the hype. I don't understand why booktube is so obsessed with this book. She recently came out with another book and I can't remember the title because I don't care. But if you have read her latest book, comment down below and tell me if you think I would be able to enjoy it, especially those of you who know my taste. Y'all know that I'm just a picky SOB. Like, I can't help it. I've always been this way, but I do want to be able to redeem this author in my eyes, so let me know. Next up we have I rarely read this genre, but I loved this book, and there is no better book than You Had Me at Hola by Alexis Daria. And this is a telenovela romance about these two actors. They could not be more different, and they meet on the set of this television show. He doesn't want anything to do with her because he is known for being very private and secluded and staying out of the limelight, while she is just constantly shrouded in a cloud of drama, a cloak of drama, if you will. And despite their own differences, despite a very messy, literally a very messy meet cute, they fall madly in love. If you have watched even one of my videos, you will know that I am not into romance. I am a grump. We all know this. It's just not my thing. I read science fiction fantasy. I like my literature. I like yeah, it's just, romance just isn't giving. And I like my horror and my thrillers. The romances I tend to enjoy tend to be the romances in horror books, because I like watching couples suffer and forming a relationship through their mutual suffering. You know, they've been through some shit and you truly believe why they're together. And I just don't get that from most romance books. They'll have like a typical conflict and then just be madly in love, and I just don't buy it. With this book, I bought it. I bought the smut, I bought the steam, I bought both characters as individuals, and so it made sense, because they were so strong separately, why they would be together. And I just loved every single page. I loved the representation of telenovelas as somebody who was Mexican. I just really, really enjoyed it. And I also enjoyed the representation of a man who lives with PTSD, a man who really, really loves his kid and just wants to be a good father. I just adored this book. I have not read the sequel. Comment down below if you think that the sequel is as good as You Had Me at Hola. Let me know. I really, really want to read it, but I don't want it to ruin the beauty of this book. Next up, we have I Love This Trope, but I Didn't Love This Book, and that is Dark Places by Jillian Flynn. Again, another book, another author that BookTube is obsessed with. I feel like this is celebrated more on Bookstagram, but everybody loves Jillian Flynn, and this was my first Jillian Flynn, and it just didn't do what it said it would do. It was not providing. It was very lackluster for me. Yes, it was disturbing. Yes, it was well written.
Yeah, that was pretty much about it.
The trope that really drew me to this book is a very grumpy, unlikable female character. I love women that men hate. And she also wasn't classically beautiful. She was 4'9", and on top of that, and she just was so grumpy, and I love that. I love unlikable women. I love women who don't fit the conventional standards of beauty. Everything about her character really drew me to this book. And so what Dark Places is about is we are following a woman who, as a girl, her brother was arrested for murdering her entire family. And for years, everyone has said, yo, he's innocent, he's innocent. And she's like,
no, I saw him do it.
He's not innocent. You're buying into this idea of innocence that he is selling, and I feel sorry for you. And eventually, of course, her past comes back to bite her in the ass, and she goes on this mission to find out whether or not her brother actually did kill her entire family. And despite the fact that this was a book with an unlikable female protagonist, I still hated it, which says a lot. First of all, and this isn't the fault of the book, it's kind of the point. The point is to make the reader very unsettled. There were just some parts in the book that were so gross, disgusting. There's a scene where she's at dinner with this man and he's got a beer, right? This man takes his beer. He takes his finger and he wipes the oil off of his forehead, and he puts his finger into his beer, his oily finger, to diffuse the foam in the beer. It was so disgusting. There's another scene where these kids are spitting loogies in the air and letting their dogs catch the loogies. I like gross things in my thrillers, but that was, I can take gross murders. I can't take that. I couldn't.
It couldn't be me.
I could not. I would have walked up out of that diner so quick. I physically could not do it. So, but that wasn't the reason why I rated the book down. The reason that I just didn't enjoy the book was because I simply didn't feel what was happening. I didn't buy, I wasn't convinced. And it's not an entirely bad book, which is why I still gave it 3 out of 5 stars. But For the fact that it featured one of my favorite tropes, you'd think that I would have rated it so much higher. On top of that, and honestly, this is a big part of the reason why I didn't rate it very high, there is sexual child abuse in this book, and it's just, I didn't know about it going in. It's just a no for me, dog. I can't. And it was like cut out of the movie too, if I remember correctly. I just, it wasn't giving. And even the movie sucked. It starred one of my favorite actresses, Charlize Theron, and she still couldn't save that damn movie. I just, nope. This book is not it. I don't get the hype. It's simply not for me. The next question is, I love this author, but I didn't like this book, and that is going to be The Everlasting Rose by Danielle Clayton. Now, to be fair, I've only read one of Danielle Clayton's books, and that was The Bells, which is the first book in this series. But the reason that I say like I do love this author is because I follow her on Twitter. Her social media discourse is amazing. She's a wonderful person. I've met her in person along with Tiffany D. Jackson, who's another one of my most favorite authors. And she's just a light, a ray of sunshine, and she's brilliant. So even though I've only read one of her books, I think that I can still safely say that I love this author. This book I did not love.
I did not love this book.
I did not like this book. I do not like Green Eggs and Ham. It just wasn't it. This is one I felt like she could have done so much better with this, but maybe it was just that my expectations were too high. The Bells was amazing, 5 out of 5 stars, so brilliant. And so if you're not familiar with this series, it's about these really beautiful girls who are kind of forced to serve the broader community and use their magic to make the community beautiful. It's great social commentary on standards of beauty, on the exploitation of Black beauty, on weaponization of female anger. That was one of my favorite things about this book and the first book, is that girls are allowed to be angry and their anger is allowed to make them strong. But this book just wasn't it. And my biggest issue was the world building. The world building was not the world building, I'm sorry, it was the plot. There were so many plot holes. There was like a part in the book where a new type of magic, a new technique was introduced, and they were like, oh yeah, this has been here all along, but no one's ever tried it. And I was like, these girls spent all day experimenting with their magic. I'm sure one of them would have tried it by now. I just didn't buy it. It just seemed like a very convenient way to be like, here's this new technique that is gonna save all of our lives. And it was just things like that, things that just didn't feel as well thought out as the rest of the book did. I still love our protagonist. I love Camellia and Remy, which is like that bodyguard romance. Love to see it. That's another trope that I really adore. And it just wasn't it for me. So if you've read The Bells and The Everlasting Rose, please comment down below and tell me what you thought. Did you rate it the same way that I did? Were you disappointed? Or did you like it more than The Bells? Next up, we have, I previously didn't like a book by this author, but I loved this book. My first Daisy Johnson book was Everything Under, and I had very high expectations going in because this is published by Grey Wolf Press, and Grey Wolf is the shit. I love their books. They're such underrated as a publisher. They're phenomenal. And this is, what is it, the Odyssey? I'm so bad with Greek mythology, but I think this is an Odyssey retelling. It's the myth where the person is fated to sleep with his mom or something like that, and it has a gender fluidity in it, a really complex relationship with an abusive alcoholic mother, complex female relationships, things that I really enjoy, and gorgeous writing. And unfortunately, I saw it all far too easily. Everything was kind of laid out, despite the fact that it is a retelling and you know how it's gonna end. Then you also have the fact that the mom sleeps with a 17-year-old kid who's under her care, and it really isn't discussed, and it just wasn't, there wasn't enough critique. There wasn't any critique of it. I didn't like it. It gave me very icky, gross feelings. It was very overwritten as well. It was intentionally obscure. There was nothing about that book that I really enjoyed, other than the fact that it started with the protagonist kind of talking about her really complicated relationship with her mother, who did abandon her, and child abandonment in literature is something that really pulls at my heartstrings. But other than that, I ended up giving it a 2-star. I would not recommend that book. But Sisters, This is a whole other thing. So first of all, this kaleidoscopic wild cover, beautiful. This is a great book if you like that weird, unsettling, menacing vibe throughout your literature. Definitely this. And again, we get complex female relationships. We have a dark relationship between two sisters, and it's essentially about these codependent sisters, and they kind of end up, one kind of ends up swallowing the other, and the other is like very obsessed with her and like can't live without her, like that kind of thing. And it is a horror book, but it is like a soft kind of gothic horror. It's not that slasher horror, but it is amazing, and it has one of the best freaking plot twists I have ever read in my entire life. So Sisters by Daisy Johnson is absolutely where it's at. Next up we have, I love this book, but I don't love this cover, and that is Vicious by Ve Schwab. I was not expecting to love Vicious as much as I did, despite the fact that everybody loves Ve Schwab. They are just a booktube darling, beloved author. Their fantasy is applauded on just like everyone's channel, and I was nervous because this is such a beloved, hyped author. And so this was my first of her books. It is a story about two academics who meet in college, and they're both very competitive. They're both very strong-willed, and they're both very smart, and they decide to kind of devise this plan to turn themselves into superheroes using science. And of course it goes horribly wrong. And this book is amazing. The characters are so consuming, and they are so complete and fully realized, and the storytelling is brilliant. The way that we're following different characters and those narratives kind of just sink into each other. They coalesce so well. It's just amazing. Like, I loved this book. There's some amazing quotes. It made me laugh so much, which, like I said, I'm a grumpy SOB. Like, that doesn't happen often in books. But this cover, I have put things in the toilet that look better than this cover. Like, I'm not gonna lie. It's so, the red that is selected is so gaudy. It's very overpowering of this like delicate illustration. And I think that was the point, was like, hey, we're gonna have like a big overwhelming color, and then we'll have like this soft kind of delicate font illustration.
And they just should have gone with something else.
They should have just gone with a different, I don't know. I feel like maybe it should have been black, white font, and just, I don't know. They should have done something different. There's anything different. Like, are there special editions of this book? Because I want that cover. I don't want this cover. However, the sequel, Vengeful, which I've heard is awful, haven't read it, but I've heard it's so bad, which just made me scared to read it because this is amazing. The cover for Vengeful, I don't know if y'all can see, is beautiful. This is exactly what we should have been given here. Like, do you see the difference? How it's not just so overwhelmingly red. The black is like woven in, and it kind of accents the red there. Beautiful. But, you know, someone should design that quickly. I don't know what needed to be done, but you need to fix that shit. Then we have, I love this cover, but I didn't love this book. And again, I'm going to use Everything Under by Daisy Johnson. I think this cover is so beautiful. I love the marsh imagery, and this has direct correlation to the themes in the book and like what the book centers around. And I love when covers actually reflect, like really reflect the themes of the book and makes those themes shine. I really like the font. I love how Under is bigger than everything. I even like the way that the blurb is put in this like really pretty green font that doesn't like underwhelm the white here, and it matches like the fronds, and the author's name isn't too big. It's placed nicely, and there's like a lot of like really good space underneath. There's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful colors in this book, in this cover, I mean. I don't know if you can see, but there's like this kind of rainbow kaleidoscopic detailing here, and it's stunning. But this book was not it. It's just not good. It's just not good. It's just not freaking giving. The final question that Danielle posed is, I love this book, but I didn't like this cover. And that is going to be The Changeling by Viktor Lavalle. Y'all know, if you've been following me for a while, if you're one of my OG subscribers, you know that I am Viktor Lavalle's biggest fan. The only reason that Viktor Lavalle is no longer my favorite author is because AMSE stepped out into the scene. And ever since then, it's just been AMSE.com. But Viktor Lavalle is a master of social commentary, of Black social commentary, of horror, of suspense, of intrigue. He's brilliant. He can write anything and it's gonna be good. Like, I really, really love him and his writing, and I'm so glad that The Changeling is gonna get an adaptation starring Lakeith Stanfield, one of my favorite. Like, I can't wait to see who else gets added to the cast. This cover haunts me, not in a good way. First of all, the sticker's not helping, but that's not like the cover artist's fault. But this like yellow font, this like acid yellow, it's not giving. And it's just not giving. I just don't like this cover. I feel like we could have done better. Now, my only consolation is that since this is getting re-released, or since there's an adaptation coming out, the cover is going to get released all over again. So I'm very, very freaking excited about that. I'm so excited to see the new cover, and because I'm going to be the first person in line to buy it, because this cover, it's just not, like, if I saw this book in the bookstore and I didn't know who Viktor Lavalle was, I would walk right by. There's nothing attention grabbing. It's just plain woods, really ugly font, and yellow font can be done well, but I just don't think with this color blue, I don't know, you guys, like, am I tripping? Am I bugging? Like, I just don't. And then what's weird about it is there's a baby in a bassinet in the corner, which, you know, all right, whatever, the baby's chilling. But it's weird because the way the baby is drawn is so much more like realistic than all of the trees. And so you have a realistic ass baby, you've got ugly font, and then you have this surreal forest, which honestly is the vibe of the book. I get it, but it's just not pretty. No one is seeing this on a shelf and being like, yeah, that one, that's the one, you know? This is not going to be a cover buy for like anybody, but comment down below. Let me know, do you love this cover? If you saw this in a bookstore, would you buy it for the cover alone? And question number 9 is to tag someone. So I'm going to be tagging Starla of Starla Reads, Ashley of A Frolic Through Fiction, Gavin of How to Train Your Gavin, and Hannah of A Clockwork Reader. So thank you for watching another Bow Ties and Books production. If you want more content from me, I do have a Patreon where I upload content exclusively for my patrons. This month's patron dedicated video was me ranting about the things that I hate about booktube. And it was a lot of fun. It was very healing to do. But all of my social media links are going to be in the description box down below. Stay safe, be good to yourselves, be good to others, and I hope to see you in my next video.